Who knows how many punching type abilities he's been hit with over the years, from the time of him getting the top 5 Nen user title all the way until now. Hey, what's up everybody? It's LeeLos, and today we're talking about why Ging versus Silva is obvious. Stay steady in pursuit of your dreams and goals. You're born to win, you're made for greatness, and I definitely believe in you guys. Keep up the great work each and every day. So let's get started with talking about Ging versus Silva. So Ging is the father of Gon Freaksis, and Silva is the father of Killua. Today we're going to analyze every single power-up and ability these two characters have displayed to explain overall who's more likely to win between these two characters. So from the very beginning of the series, Ging has been depicted to be a very powerful character. During the Greed Island arc, Bisky states, not only is Ging famous, but Netero used to say that Ging is one of the top 5 Nen users in the entire world. Now, this is a even bigger achievement and a more impressive statement than being a top 5 hunter, because there's many powerful Nen users that are not actually hunters. Members of the Phantom Troop would be a good example. Another good example would be a character like Illumi. Illumi didn't become a hunter until he was 24, but he was already very powerful by that time. So Ging wasn't just a top 5 hunter, he was a top 5 Nen user. And in the manga, we don't see a picture of Ging when he accomplishes this feat, but the anime does show an image of Ging with the top 5 Nen user statement. And they show a very young Ging. In the anime, this Ging looks exactly the same as the Ging that defeated Razor, which happened either before Greed Island was even fully developed or soon after the creation of Greed Island. This is very impressive because Greed Island was made while Gon was still a baby, meaning this could have taken place over 12 years ago. Meaning a highball interpretation of this statement is that Ging became a top 5 Nen user around 12 years ago and has gotten much stronger since. Bisky states, if you have around 4 Nen users that are somewhat relative to each other, the weakest of these Nen users can defeat the strongest of these Nen users if the weakest Nen user is under his worst conditions and the strongest Nen user is under their best conditions. And seeing how Ging was stated to be a top 5 Nen user, this means in theory he could have been either rank 5 or rank 4, because being a top 3 Nen user would be its own title. This means in theory, even as far back as 12 years ago, Ging in his best condition could, in theory, defeat the number 1 strongest Nen user in their worst condition. And then Ging has gotten much stronger after that. One of the reasons why it's very likely Ging has gotten stronger than he was when he first attained the title of a top 5 Nen user is because Ging is canonically obsessed with his goals. This is a narrative element of Ging that's similar to Gon. Actually, the first time Gon ever heard Ging speak, he tells Gon that hunters are egomaniacs and they're obsessed with their goals, with Ging himself proving this point, abandoning everything to become a hunter. Now the goal that Ging is chasing after is the Dark Continent, and Ging is a unique case because he has more information on the Dark Continent than most people do. Ging actually has information on undocumented trips to the Dark Continent from Netero, one of which Netero, while he was near his prime, went with his friends and was still overwhelmed by the power of the Dark Continent. So Ging is aware that the Dark Continent has monsters so powerful that even a near, if not just actually prime version of Netero still could not handle it. Despite this, Ging has been preparing for this challenge for a very long time, and now he believes this is the best time to go take on these monstrous enemies. Ging is actually so confident in his abilities that he's telling other people that are far weaker than himself that he'll actually be able to protect them. He's guaranteeing some weaker members that they'll be able to return from this trip, which is a crazy thing to promise somebody when he knows that they're going to fight threats beyond even what a prime Netero can handle. He's still confident enough in his own abilities that he's telling other people, I'll make sure that you survive this. Ging has a line of dialogue when he's talking about the 5 intro level calamities from the Dark Continent, and he says it's really a miracle that they haven't wiped out humanity already. So this tells you that the Dark Continent, the 5 intro level calamities on their own, are already potentially humanity wiping level powers. And Ging is saying, you know, we're going on this mission, we're going to face these things, and I can still protect you. But it should be noted that Ging says that there's not much you can do against these kind of enemies, but then he follows that up by saying, all you can really do is lock them up and stay away. That's actually what the humans in Hunter x Hunter end up doing. They lock up some of these calamities. A highball implication of this is maybe Ging believes he can also lock them up and stay away somehow, some way with one of his abilities. We also see that he has the talent to copy any punching based Nen ability that he's been hit with. And he canonically is considered a very annoying person to many people in the verse of Hunter x Hunter. So who knows how many punching type abilities he's been hit with over the years, from the time of him getting the top 5 Nen user title all the way until now. He could genuinely have a very large arsenal of different Hatsu abilities at his disposal. Overall, he's just depicted to be extremely powerful. There's genuinely good arguments for him not only being one of the strongest characters in Hunter x Hunter, there's actual arguments for him surpassing Old Man Netero by now. But that on its own is more of a debatable topic, maybe something for a later video. Now, all that being said, let's talk about Silva and see how he compares to a character like Ging. So Silva, he's the head of the Zoldyck family. The fact that Silva is the head of the family currently, it implies that there's a good chance he's the strongest member of the Zoldicks currently. There's a big debate over whether or not Silva or Zeno is actually the strongest Zoldyck at this point in time. It's debatable. There are some databook statements that imply that Zeno might actually be slightly more skilled than Silva, but it's really up for debate. These two are very close in power. We get a good understanding of around how powerful Silva is during his battle against Crollo. So Zeno and Silva working together both fight Crollo. And it should be noted, it's confirmed that Crollo was actually holding back during at least the beginning portion of this fight. He wasn't actually trying to kill them. There's a good argument you can make that around halfway through the fight, Crollo actually was trying to kill them from that point onwards, but for a portion of the fight, he was not actually trying to kill them and was canonically holding back against them. Despite this, they still weren't able to kill Crollo in this time frame. Meanwhile, Zeno and Silva were both trying to kill Crollo. It should also be noted that Crollo actually doesn't land a single attack on Zeno the entire fight, but he does land an attack on Silva. He hits Silva with the Ben's knife. Now, if the fight had continued, it's very likely that Zeno and Silva would have ended up killing Crollo, but we don't really know how the fight would have ended specifically. For example, there's a real possibility that one or both of the Zoldicks would have died in this battle as well, because we don't know all of the abilities that Crollo has within his book. This is actually something that Silva states himself, that they might not be able to defeat Crollo without risking their lives in the process. It's because Crollo, he himself is a very powerful fighter, and they genuinely don't know what kind of dangerous abilities they have in his book. To deal lethal damage to Crollo, they might have to get into dangerous range fighting him and both die in the process. There is a possibility of that happening, that he has some kind of crazy ability that takes all three of them out at the very end of the fight. That there's a possibility of that. However, this is a real problem for Silva's power scaling. The reason I say that is because Crollo is relative to Hisoka, with strong arguments that Hisoka is actually the stronger of these two characters. The reason this is a problem is because Hisoka is actually considered so weak that Netero's not even interested at the idea of fighting him. Netero is so much stronger than Hisoka is that the idea of fighting Hisoka genuinely bores him. This is a big problem because Netero is relative to Ging. In complete honesty, there's arguments for Ging being stronger than Netero, considering that, as I stated earlier in the video, Ging under his best conditions, even as much as around 10 or 12 years ago, already in theory could potentially defeat the #1 Nen user, and then has gotten much stronger since then and has been preparing to take on obstacles that even a prime Netero could not handle. And on top of all of this, Netero himself says it's been over 50 years since he was the #1 Nen user. There's a real chance that Ging has already surpassed Old Man Netero, or at the very least, he's relative to Old Man Netero. Meanwhile, Silva is struggling with a character like Crollo, who is actually weak compared to Netero. Silva is relative to characters like Crollo. Meanwhile, characters like Crollo and others in his same tier like Hisoka are weaklings compared to Netero. And Ging is relative to Netero, maybe even stronger than Netero. So you're dealing with a situation where Silva is just objectively not in Jing's realm of power. He's not in a tier where he's really much of a threat to Ging. The simplest way to put it, Silva is relative to characters like Chrollo, and Ging is relative to characters like Netero. There is a big gap between these tiers of power, and Silva has yet to bridge that gap. While Ging was stated to be a top 5 Nen user a long time ago and it's gotten much stronger since, Silva does not have any statements on this level. He's not a top 5 Nen user. He's not even a top 10 Nen user. He has no statements putting him on this tier. Also, it should be noted that Silva, he killed a member of the Phantom Troop before, and he said it was not easy for him. Meanwhile, characters like Netero would genuinely solo the entire Phantom Troop. And Ging is relative to a character like Netero who can wipe out the whole troop. Meanwhile, Silva is saying that it was challenging for him to beat just one member of the troop, and he's still relative to this Chrollo tier. Honestly, it's very debatable who wins between a full power Chrollo and just Silva on his own. Meanwhile, Ging is well beyond this level of power. A medium ball interpretation of Ging is that he's relative to Netero. At most, it would be a medium difficulty fight for Ging in which he would defeat Silva. If you use a high ball interpretation of Ging and say that he's stronger than Netero, then he's actually going to low diff Silva. But yeah, that's everything I wanted to say, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the views in the comments. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.